What if Florida State comes into Clemson on Saturday at 12 o'clock as, at this point, only a 1.5 point favorite, which in line terms means, I don't know. It's a toss-up. What happened if they come into Clemson and they beat the living crap out of the Tigers? I'm not talking about just a, 3-point win, 7-point or less. I'm talking about a pure domination. Even if they won by the same total as Duke, what would that do to Clemson? What would that do to the team? What would that do to recruiting and commitments we've received? What would that do to the fan base? I'll get into that in just a second. Hey, I'm Brian. I'm not Bobby Durkins, at least not here. If you're new, hey, thanks for joining me. I have a lot of Florida State fans who's been joining the show, checking it out. Welcome. So subscribe if you would like. Also, people who have been watching my show, you've just never subscribed. It's a great way to support the channel for free. So please do that. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the notification bell over in the corner. It lets you know when I go live. Excuse me. I burped. I'm sorry. Y'all forgive me. Also, that was embarrassing. So if you want to support the channel on a monthly basis, I have a $3 or a $5 per month tier. You won't even notice that. There's a join button below the video. Unless you're on an iPhone, you might not see it. So I did a video. Earlier today talking about what if Clemson beat Florida State. Now that seemed laughable the Tuesday morning after Clemson's Monday night loss on Labor Day to the Florida State Seminoles. And rightfully so. Florida State had just put on a clinic against LSU, had the eyes of the nation upon them. That evening, everything fell into place for Florida State. Keon Coleman went off for 3 touchdowns. Jaheim Bell had 2 touchdowns. The transfer portal had been incredible. Had worked great for them. And then Clemson goes and wets the bed in Durham in front of 45 people. I'm being sarcastic. They did lose. Yes, they had 200 yards on the ground. Yes, they had 200 yards in the air. Yes, they had so many things that if you read the stat sheet, you would go Clemson won this ball game. Maybe by a couple of scores. Nope. Fumbled the ball twice within the 5-yard line. I know that one. There was a helmet put to the football in Moffa's hands. But, folks, I'm just telling you, it was that type of night. Field goals blocked. Even this past weekend, going, and I want to be careful. He's a young man. I'm not going after you. If he was my son, I'd be like, hey, be nice. He missed a PAT. It would be laughable to believe that Clemson could even contend. But I said, what if? This video is what happens if Florida State actually comes to town and lowers the boom on Clemson. Now, first of all, how would that happen? I think that it would be part of Florida State coming into Death Valley and saying, we're not scared of you. We know what happened with Boston College last weekend. Someone commented, said that Florida State, the flu is running through their team. I don't know if that's true or not. But I can tell you straight up, if Florida State does lower the boom, it will be because they come into Clemson and say, we're not scared of you. And they just start throwing the ball like crazy. Downfield. Keon Coleman, go get it. Hey, Makuba, can you guard him? Oh, we got Johnny Wilson over here. Oh, Jaheim Bell, here he comes. Jaheim Bell he reminds me of Marshawn Lynch. Like that, just that grit and that nastiness. And I mean, and then all of a sudden they go back to the running back for Florida State. What's his last name? Benson. And if Clemson's off kilter with the offense, yeah, they might move the ball. But maybe, I don't know, they turn over the ball like that hasn't happened before. And Florida State just eats it up. That's how I see. If Florida State, if they were to do this, if they were to come in and just control the game, dominate Clemson at an embarrassing level in front of everybody there in Death Valley at 12 o'clock on Saturday, in front of the country. Now, of course, the big game of the day is going to be Ohio State at Notre Dame. I know as Southerners, we're unhappy about that, but had Clemson not got their head tore off in the game against Duke, a lot of people, including College Game Day, would be paying attention to still be at the Ohio State game, but a lot more attention will be on this Florida State Clemson game. And there's still a lot of attention on this Florida State and Clemson game. Still, even with Clemson being unranked. Which, between you and I, until they get their act together, I like it because it's challenging them. It's challenging them. Swinney's very good at the underdog game, and I'm hoping that he plays it and his team sings along to it and goes out there and beats Florida State. But I'm saying that's not a bad thing. But if Florida State wins this ball game, and not only wins it, let's just say if they were to throw down on Clemson, which a lot of people does not believe is going to happen. Even Florida State fans are going, and you've got your randos who shows up in my comment section saying, Clemson's going to lose by 30 points. But most Florida State fans believe this is going to be a good game. But if Florida State barely wins a game and Clemson doesn't go out there and play like trash, we could see Clemson and Clemson fans going, hey, how do you respond after this? You did play really good. They just got you. There could be some hope for the season. The ACC championship's totally out of it. You can go ahead and forget that. Then you have to get into the mindset, we may be sub 10 wins this year. No ACC championship. The divisions are gone. The top 2 plays for the top trophy. Unless everybody starts beating up on each other and you have a bunch of 2 and 3 lost teams, except for maybe Florida State. I mean, come on. You're out of it. If Florida State, okay, go back to Clemson. If Clemson barely loses, they could still salvage the season to a point in the sense of growing the players who are younger, trying to pull it together, and not just give up. Maybe. If Florida State dominates them and makes them look bad in front of God and everybody, first they would be 0-2 in the conference. When was the last time they were 0-2 in the conference? I can't remember. Been a long time. But I believe you are going to see a lot of fans who right now are even showing up on my channel telling me how wrong I am for questioning this coaching staff. I don't question the players, folks. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if you think I'm questioning players, if you think I'm questioning Cade Klubnik, I'm not. I've been taken up for Cade. I've been taken up for a lot of the players who were highly recruited, and it seems just like they're not turning the corner. If that happens with 1 or 2 players, the law of numbers says that that's going to happen. There's going to be some players who they thought they were great. They were hot stuff in high school, and they get into college football, and they find out you have to work harder in college football, and suddenly they don't want to work hard anymore. Well, I'm hot stuff. I'm the best, one of the best players in the country. Yeah, well, now you're playing against bigger talent, and you get shown up. That stuff happens. Maybe some players are rated higher than they should be. Maybe that happens. But when that starts happening to the vast majority of your players, and none of them are really turning the corner, that's called a development issue. And who is in charge of development? Coaching. And I highly suspect that if Florida State comes in and dominates the game, I'm not talking about beat Clemson 50-10, they come out and they dominate kind of like Duke did, or win by the total that Duke did. 3 touchdowns, somewhere in there. Obviously, if it's more, it'll be worse. More points, the criticism will be worse. But I predict that you're going to see a lot of those people who were telling me that I'm not a real Clemson fan because I'm not eat, sleep, believing whatever that comes out of Clemson, South Carolina is the greatest thing ever. That I would even dare to criticize dumb decisions, because we all know if you really pull for somebody, you never criticize them if they do something wrong. You just sweep it under the rug, and they do something else wrong. You sweep it under the rug. You keep sweeping under the rug until you have a mountain in the middle of your room with a little doily on top that used to be a rug. But that's what a real fan is, right? That's what you're supposed to do if you pull for your team. No, it's not. That's called a cult member. But you're going to see a lot of those fans. You're going to see them start to grumble. You might see the transfer portal light up. You might see a few a few coaches who were former players, their head finally go to the chopping block. That's what could happen. Now, the worst case scenario, if Florida State should come in and dominantly beat down Clemson in Death Valley, which, by the way, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope my Tigers wins. I hope my Tigers turn it around. I hope this is one of those stories where it's like, man, you remember that night in Durham? Yeah. What happened there? And then Clemson is doing great for the rest of the season. There's been people who called the upset that Clemson would lose in Durham and then turn around and win out going into the playoffs. I mean, I'm just telling you. Now, I don't see that happening right now. Clemson proved me wrong. Please prove me wrong. Your fan base is begging you to prove us wrong. I don't want them to do that. But that would be beautiful if things turned around and you're just sitting there going, wow, you tag team. It was like two different. I mean, yeah, they moved the ball a lot, but it's just like they couldn't score. And then the Charleston Southern first half, but this team turned around. That's what I hope happens. But if Florida State comes out and lowers the boom on them, whoo. I expect the coaching staff to become, at certain levels, even more defensive than ever. And I'll tell you, I will not be shocked if Clemson, well, I'll go back to Florida State. I will not be shocked if Florida State still loses a game this year. It's hard to go undefeated. It's very difficult, in fact. So I would not be shocked if that happened. Okay? But maybe that would be their, yes, we're coming back. Now, if Florida State falls apart after that and they lose 2 or 3 games and you're like, well, what happened? I mean, it really adds insult to injury. But if Clemson loses this ball game and they're dominated by Florida State in the Valley at 12 o'clock this coming Saturday, the truth is, this could finally be the straw that breaks the camel's back, because at this point you step back and you go, well, hold on. You hired Garrett Riley. Now, you could rebut me and say, well, Brian, he's still only been on campus, 9 months, if that? Barely 9 months. He's actually having to clean up a lot of just other weird stuff that's happened the past 3 years, you would be right. That's fantastic. But I'd also tell you, not rebut, but add to that. A lot of the offensive coaches that has been at Clemson for the past few years are still there today. So he can only clean up so much. You can't fix the fact that Cade Klubnik did not get prepared last year. That's not his fault. That's coaching's fault. Well, this is my favorite rebuttal to what I just said. Well, that's because Clemson, their offense wasn't doing too well, and they just couldn't just send him out there, really, because that's what they did against, I don't know, Syracuse when they were losing. He came out there, he won the game, and then Clemson benched him. That's what they did against Notre Dame. They threw him. I mean, he was backed up at his own goal line. They threw him out there. If you really don't want to send a freshman out, you don't do it in a game like that where everything is turned into crap. If you don't want to get him psychologically down and make him receive unmerited criticism because it's really not his fault, you don't send him out in that scenario. You send DJ back out there, you know. And folks, I'm just telling you, this is what happens when you send a very talented football player like Cade Klubnik out on the field. And yeah, he was there last year, but he did not get the chance. He did not get the chance to grow like the other quarterbacks, starting with Taj Boyd. And I've talked about that ad nauseum. Taj sat behind Kyle Parker. Deshaun sat behind Cole Stout, ended up winning the job. I mean, come on. Kelly Bryant sat behind Deshaun Watson. He got worked in. Trevor Lawrence sat behind Kelly Bryant. He got worked in, won the job. DJ sat behind Trevor Lawrence, got worked in. Cade didn't get worked in. They didn't work him in. Sorry. I mean, it's just the truth. P Digits is in here. What's up? Going to go through here and say hello to a few people. Got M. Dutchy in here. FSU plays like BC game. You Tigers win by blowout. We got Gregory Moore. I'm a Duke fan, but for obvious reasons, I hope Clemson wins out. Glad you're here, my friend. St. Germain's in here. I can see 3 more losses. They are not prepared and come out flat. Yeah, you're right. I think we're going to win outright. DP's all fired up. Let's see. Got Phil Stevens in here. Says go Knowles. How Marcus Looper in here taking shots at me. I appreciate that, Marcus. We have Phil back in here. Have P Digits. We have a bunch of people. I do appreciate it. Who else is in here? All right. I have 26 people watching the show so far. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's the easiest way to support the show for free. If you want to support the show on a monthly basis, have a $3 tier, a $5 tier. You're like, what's the difference? $3 or $5. I'm not going to come over to your house and try to figure out why your wife doesn't like you anymore for that. But I do appreciate you asking, and you can support that. Also, I want to talk about a sponsor for the show. All right. I have a sponsor for the show, and I'm very careful of who I agree to work with. But this one was just a no-brainer after discussing it and just working it out. 4Putt Carts is a cart service that provides beverage and snacks service to golf courses. Okay, so whether a golf course has carts or not, you should still contact them. You're like, wow. Well, first of all, if you don't have them, you need them. Okay, you need them to come out. And I mean, imagine you're out there on the 4th hole. You're like, man, I know the clubhouse is like at 9, but I just really man, I wished I'd have got something. All of a sudden, this miraculous cart shows up. There you are. There they are. Boom. You have that. Also, if you do have cart service, all right, if you have cart service, but you have like a tournament, you probably are understaffed. That's a great reason to reach out to them, as well as for events. I know that tomorrow, 4-putt carts will actually be working for a celebrity golf tournament. Also, the city of Atlanta and their golf courses are in contact with them. They're going to be doing work with them, Macon. But this is not limited to Georgia. This is in the South, and so I will have the website to put up here later on. But if you want to reach out to them, I will, or you can reach out to me, and I'll forward your information to them. So, 4-putt carts, thank you for sponsoring the show. What suggests that we, Clemson, will beat FSU this season? Just need to be prepared. They will be locked in or looking to break a 7-game losing streak. They have the players to do it this year. Great point. Sid Irish beat the Knowles, Clemson, from an ND fan. Thank you so much. Both schools were on their toes. This would be a game. Yeah. If Clemson was on top of it, that this would probably be a not game. This is the first year in many I've legitimately worried about the FSU game. Yeah, Ted. Yeah, this is the first time in a long time. For one of those teams, absolutely. And I could see it more for working out for Florida State if they won it putting them in line to be the champion, to be in the championship. For Clemson, on the other hand, and I'm pulling for them, I just see a lot of inconsistencies, and there needs to be more consistency there. So we'll see. We will definitely see. So, folks, what if Florida State beats Clemson? Well, if it's a close game, it's going to hurt. There's a difference between hurting because it was close or being insulted because you just got drugged, right? And being hurt, being disappointed, that would be a big deal. You kind of hope they can come back from that. The Duke game, if they lost by a walk-off field goal, that would have hurt, but you could kind of live with it to a point, other than losing by 3 touchdowns. I don't think that it would crush the program. It would hurt the program, but it wouldn't crush it. But if Florida State comes into Clemson and they dominate them and maybe win by 3 touchdowns, I would tell you the program might be crushed. It might be crushed. All of the years that has propped up Clemson, the cornerstone win of 2016 and the win in 2018 that made Clemson like they were a dynasty. The out of order sign, the no longer in business sign would be hung on Clemson. I believe that. If Florida State trashes them in Death Valley, 12 o'clock this coming Saturday. I hope not, but don't be shocked. Don't be shocked if the transfer portal lights up. Don't be shocked if coaches become heated. Don't be shocked if the media starts catching some backlash, especially from Sweeney. Don't be shocked if you see arguing on the sidelines between players. Don't be shocked, even if they're not arguing, if the camera pans across the Clemson sideline, kind of like they did with the Duke game. People talked about the Duke. They came out at halftime, and people was told me who was at the game. So when Clemson came out at halftime, they didn't even look right. Yeah, you had a few players that was fired up, but the overall persona of the team was weird, unenthusiastic, odd. Don't be shocked if those guys are standing on the sideline with a blank look on their face or just a look of disgust. Don't be shocked. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that doesn't happen. We will see. There's a lot of questions in here. Someone's asking about the portal. The problem right now is not the portal. That's where I disagree with a lot of people. I'm not against using the portal whatsoever. If you have a player, you have a few holes on the team, and you need to fill them instead of waiting on that big recruit to come in and suddenly have to mature over the next 2 years, all the while you're losing eligibility of other players. You know what I'm saying? I mean, go get a guy that is trustworthy out of the transfer portal, and you can go ahead and fix some, player here, player there. I've heard some people in the Clemson community go, "You don't know what you're talking about. We don't have scholarships to hand out." They did Bear Bryant's great grandson. That's one right there. No offense to him, but that's one right there. What happened if that one player was a Travis Hunter-like player? What happened if that one player was a world-class offensive lineman? What happened if that one player was kind of a Swiss Army knife player who could play on both sides of the ball and bring some excitement? I don't know. There was a guy was and still is named Travis Hunter. I hate that he got hurt. But the problem at Clemson right now, especially on the offensive side of the ball, is coaching. And I'm not going to hang that all on Garrett Riley. He's only been there 9 months. Okay? 9 months, if that. He's only been at Clemson, if that. Maybe even 7 months, 7 or 8 months. I don't know. But all of those coaches that's standing on the sideline on the offensive side of the ball, the vast majority of them, they've been at Clemson for at least 2 or 3, 4 years. If my memory serves me correct, call me out if I'm wrong. But before you do, I want you to go through each one of them, look them up, and go, how long has so-and-so been at Clemson? How long has that guy been at Clemson? And here's what you're going to find out. The vast majority of the offensive coaches have been there a while. I say a while, 2 to 3 years at least. And a lot of them don't even have the level. And Ted Jackson was the one who pointed this out to me. Ted, a great breakdown. A lot of them, they've never coached at this level before at the position that they're currently in. And that's fine if you have 1 or 2 of them. When you have a bunch of them, and before you get mad at me, go look them up. Go break down every one of them. Go check them. Go check it out. All right? Go check them out before you get mad at me. All right, folks, I'm going to let you go. I'm ready to eat dinner. I'm ready to relax. I just got back off of vacation, had my first day in. You know how that can be. The email box is big. You have meetings. You're sitting there hearing about stuff that went on. You're like, whoa, wow, man, good grief. Thank you so much for supporting the show. If you haven't subscribed, that is the easiest way to support the show. It's free. Please do that. If you want to support on a monthly basis, there's a $3 or a $5 per month tier. There's no difference between them other than $3 or $5. And listen to me here. It's so simple. Just hit the join button below the video. If you're on an iPhone, you may not see it. You'll have to do it on another device. Thank you to 4Putt Carts for sponsoring the Not Bobby Durkin show. I wish them the best, and I appreciate their sponsorship. Folks, win or lose, as always, go Tigers.